The porch project was pretty much on hold for most of the rest of the winter and the spring and summer. Once I got those posts in and put those timbers up there for the floor joists, I just kind of left it. I needed to concentrate on working on the airplane and getting it all together, which I did. Thought it was going to be done by the middle of June, but my hope didn't materialize like I'd hoped it would. In August, my wife started working on it again. I took those timbers down off of there, and then my wife took the 4.5-inch angle grinder with a wire brush and cleaned off the rust that formed on those while they were sitting there out in the rain and the weather. She put a couple of coats of Cora-Seal on them, which is what I'd painted those channel iron beams and stuff with, and then put a good coat of Exo Rust primer on there, and then a finish coat of Exo Rust Black. Still want to do a little bit on the inside there where everything's sitting, because we made a little walkway to get in and out of the house, and I didn't take that off yet. But that didn't get rusted up like this stuff that's out underneath the eaves of the house. One of the things that I wanted to do before I started putting those deck boards down was to finish backfilling around the basement there. I've got the cribbing in, and I've got it pretty well started on getting the drain rock in there, but I didn't have it finished because it was just dribbling down and running out here towards the bottom where the doors are. So my idea here was to get some of these echo blocks, make a retaining wall here to close that off, that basement off there where the drain rock is going to go. And so we'll build the echo blocks up there, and then I can hold all of that drain rock in there, and I can go ahead and fill out and bring all of this out level with grade here to the grade around the house. So the entryway will be out here towards the front instead of off to the side. We got started at that. I got the first 2 blocks down. Those things were everything that my machinery can handle and then some. My little excavator, I could just barely move those around with it. And in the Bobcat, I can move them if I get both forks together and put it through a chain through those lifting eyes on there and get it back on the forks pretty close to the machine. Then I can lift them up. Or if I get the forks underneath it spread out, and then I can get it all the way on the forks, and then I can pick it up. So we got them into position there. I dug that out earlier, some with the machine and some by hand, and got it all leveled out and everything and flattened out. That's got good rock in there for a base, a good solid base underneath it, so I'm not worried about those tipping or sinking or anything. So that's a good start, and I'm going to put 3 more layers up there. That'll be 8 foot high, and then that'll close that off. And of course then we'll have some trim and some siding and stuff around here on the basement where we got the entry. So that's a start, but to do that I had to get my little excavator running. When I was using it last winter to dig the footings and stuff like that, it finally quit on me and I couldn't get it started anymore, so I needed to work on it a little bit. And I got it started and running, and then we blew a hose on it, so we had to get a new hose for that. And that's just not quite big enough for doing that with lifting those blocks with, but it's a nice little machine. It's a PC30, Komatsu PC30, and it's been a good machine. It was wore out when I got it, and I've wore it out even more now. So that's one of the things we can do now that the airplane project is finally done. I can get back to working on the house, and that's the first thing on the house is finishing up backfilling here and getting that porch decked out, that half of the porch decked out, and then I can start working on some other things here. We've got some more blocks to put down. I put 2 6-foot blocks down on the base. They're 2 foot thick and 2 foot high and 6 foot long. We got those all bedded in Friday. Oh, now I'm putting the next layer on. And what I did is I got 2 3-foot block and 1 6-foot block. So I put the first 3-foot block on there already. I picked it up with a Bobcat with the skid steer on the fork and slid it in there. And it went pretty good. Well, now I've got to drag out the 6-footer, and that's going to go in the middle, so that will span over the gap between the 2 6-footers that I've already got there and kind of lock those in. And then I've got another 3-footer that'll go on the end on this end. Now I've got it hooked up to the 6-foot length of it. Like I said, this thing is just too heavy for this stuff, but I've got to get it out of there somehow. The thing weighs about, I think he said 3,600 pounds or something like that for that 6-footer. Anyway, I'll drag that one out of there. I've got it hooked up now, and I can at least get it out of the back of the trailer, and then we'll see what we can do with it from there. Okay, that went pretty good. I had to move the machine around after I got it set up because this block stuck out this way just a little bit proud. Half an inch to an inch, something like that. I couldn't move it with the hydraulics with the boom. I got squared up with it and pushed it in with the machine, with the blade. And everything is pretty square now, pretty flush. All the pieces all fit together pretty good. That didn't go so bad. Well, that looks pretty good. I have to make a little mortar maybe and portage up some of these little chips and stuff in there. That stuff is pretty green, it looks like. But that looks pretty doggone good. That's 4 foot high. So I'll take the trailer back in and set it back up in the guy's yard, and he can load 2 more of the 6-footers in there when he gets a chance. Yeah, that went pretty good. That 3-footer was all I could handle with the boom extended out all the way on the little excavator. Once I got it in close and it moved it around pretty good, it could handle it pretty good, but I had to get it all the way in tight for that big one. And then I used the blade a little bit to kind of balance it on and stuff. And it actually worked out pretty good. I actually moved it around better than I thought. Now there'll be 2 more 6-footers go on top of those. blocks on the retaining wall are put up. I got 3 of them for that top row. I got 2 3-footers and 1 6-footer. So they kind of stagger just like they did on that second row. When I put the 2 6-footers on there on that third row, that first 6-footer that went in closest to the basement wall hooked on that 3-footer underneath it and kind of shoved it over against the basement wall so it wasn't lined up with the rest of them. And we couldn't move it by hand. So this morning when my son was here to help, we put the chain on that 6-foot block there on that third row, and I run the Bobcat in there and picked that up, and then the 2 of us using pinch bars slid that 3-foot block back in there to where it's lined up properly now. Anyway, there it is. That's going to look pretty good. I need to get some drainage type rock and backfill in there against the house. Get that backfilled up, and then we can backfill here on this outer portion of it and bring that up too. Now what the plan is here is to eventually come out with more of those blocks from the end of that this way and taper that down this way, and then all of that area up there where the trailer is and all of that will be brought up to grade around the house with it sloping, the driveway and walkway and stuff sloping down, and then there'll be a pocket in here going into the basement, and this will all be covered up with the roof, porch roof over the house, over the porch. That's the plan anyway. I've done a lot of dirt moving around here on this property, and mixed in with the clay I would find boulders, rocks. Well, I saved those out to use for landscaping. I put them in the creek or something to make it look like a babbling brook. Well, anyway, I've saved a bunch of those out, and then I had some shot rock that we'd get out of the pit that I brought in for fill. There's some of that I'd saved out too. So rather than fill all of this in with drain rock, with smaller rock, expensive rock, I decided I'd fill a lot of it in with this boulders and stuff that I've got. Pick the rocks up one at a time and move the excavator back, and then drop the bucket down and everything and get in between the posts here on the porch and get them in there and get that filled up. Now, I'm still going to come up some more with this, but I'm going to go ahead and get crushed rock for that, so smaller rock, drain rock for that to finish that out. But this cribbing that I had around here was starting to pooch out. Because of the steepness and the slope of this, I didn't have a whole lot on the outside of that cribbing to hold it in. We got this area over here that I've been working on, or worked on. We were going to build a cabin over there for my son. He petered out on that. He didn't have much enthusiasm on helping with that. But anyway, I've got a nice pad over there now. I took the excavator over there and dug out some mud on that bank a little bit and loosened it up and took the Bobcat and then hauled it over here, put in against the cribbing on that wall, fill that up a little bit. Now this stuff's got a little bit of clay in it, and it's mostly just mud. It's going to turn to snot or worse when it starts getting wet, when it starts raining. That water runs right off of that porch roof there and right down on, well, it actually comes down onto that I-beam there and then comes down onto whatever's below it. We get a permit, mineral permit from the Forest Service, and we've gotten a lot of rock, shot rock, out of some pits in the local area, and we filled in a lot of places with that shot rock. There's a couple of seams in that pit there where the rock fractures and makes flat faces, and some of it didn't fracture up real small. It fractured up into nice big pieces, and when I get those, I save those out and put them aside to use for landscaping. So I dug those out, and initially I just put a few underneath that I-beam there on that porch, so when the water runs off of it, it would have something to run onto and not just wash all that mud away. And then I decided I'd go ahead and face that mud hill a little bit more, kind of hold that mud in place. So I've got it pretty well protected now. That's all it is just on the surface of it. It's just a face, and it's just to stabilize that mud hill. I'll probably take those out of there when we get ready to finish filling this. This will all be filled out and brought up to grade around the house here. And so I'll probably take those rocks out of there and use them for something else later. But for now, they're just there to stabilize that bank. Well, that looks pretty good now. I got 4 yards of crushed rock, 1.5 inch washed rock, drain rock, and kind of slung it in there with the excavator. Got it all filled up as high as I want it. The excavator won't reach all the way. Of course, it reaches past that second channel iron there, and I can dump it there and then kind of push it back with it by opening up the bucket. Then we had to get in there with the shovel and finish it out, spreading it out to get it over there behind that retaining wall. But we got that plenty deep enough. It's going to settle down a little bit as time goes by. But I did pack it in with the bucket a little bit. But that's done. That's nice now. That's up where I wanted it. So that drain rock is all the way around the house there now. That done yesterday, and then the weather turned off nice today, so I got wire brush and an angle grinder and went in there and cleaned up that channel iron and those tabs that I welded on. Coated it with some Cora-Seal and let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow I'll put some Exo Rust on it. And we can start putting the deck down, but I think I'm going to wait a little bit on the deck. I'm kind of going through thought process on how to do that roof, so I'm kind of working on that a little bit. May have to mill up a couple more timbers to put down. Well, anyway, we're making progress slowly.